All right, so all of our Type 1 engines now have gross decon kits on them. 138 is going to have it installed on there as well. So pretty much every apparatus now. Truck 4, Battalion 2, they've been updated with everything. The truck just doesn't have the diffuser on it. Battalion 2 does though, for whatever reason, if they needed to assist. So pretty much the thought with this was, we got units over here, Battalion 2, Truck 4, they're not always going to be there. We go on vehicle fires, things like that on Engine 5, Engine 205, or Engine 4 goes to Lakeside by themselves. So this way, no matter what, we have decon setups on each of our rigs. So we wanted to simplify it a little bit from the initial rollout of everything. Sheets there. So we basically broke it up. That was one of the common questions that came out over the last 6 months, 9 months of doing the decon that we had was, when am I doing the full decon? When am I not? I don't want to saturate my turnouts. If I'm going to be going back in, we want to keep all that in mind. So that's kind of what we came up with the two. So you got basically initial or re-entry decon, where pretty much what we're going to do, we're going to take some towels and some wipes. Brush some big stuff off you. If you've got large particles, contaminants, keep it away. Get the wipes out. Clean your hands, clean your wrists, clean your neck. What are we doing usually after we come out? We're drinking water. If the Lakeside volunteers are there, maybe some snacks later. So before we're eating, just be extra cognizant of this. Use some of these wipes. So that's, hey, we can go back inside. No problems at all. So the full decon setup, that's typically going to be the first in engine in an ideal setup. They're already going to be on a water supply. They're going to set up the decon kind of in a corridor coming out of the structure. So all you're going to need, grab the kit, grab your cones, find a good area where you can kind of cycle people in and out, and you're pretty much going to set everything up so the crews can decon themselves. We don't want the engineers going and getting in the mix. That PPE is giving significant off-gassing, they say for like 25 minutes, and then it starts to taper off a little bit, but still obviously off-gasses. So if you do have to get in and help deconning, at least throw like a P100 on or SCBA in a perfect world, but hopefully we don't have to get to that point. So pretty much grab the kit, grab some cones, you can do whatever you need to do to mark it. You can throw this little guy on top, have all the equipment set up, and then we have a laminated sheet on the inside that kind of just breaks down the final decon. And really it's just like washing a car. So all you're gonna do, and we'll go through the steps on the rig, but you're basically gonna take brass, 2.5 inch discharge down to the garden hose. You're gonna hook that up, stretch it out. If you're already on a hydrant, just gate it down like really, really low pressure. We don't need much pressure at all coming out of this. And then we have this right here. This has a setting where you can go off and you're just rinsing. So it'll typically just be left in the off position. So what that's gonna do, you can rotate and change the diffusion. So that's just gonna be a straight bypass. So if you start the rinse straight through, knock all the big stuff off of anyone, and then you're gonna switch over. When we're gonna start deconning, we're gonna dump the citrus squeeze bottle that we have here, this whole thing, into the reservoir.
Full strength, okay.
Just dump it straight in?
Yep.
Okay.
They're the same ounces.
And then what,
then you're gonna switch over.
Water in that thing or no?
Nope.
Oh, water's coming.
So you're gonna switch over to 8 ounces to 4 ounces, somewhere in there. 4 ounces is obviously gonna give you quite a bit more, but it's less dilution. Okay. And then 8 ounces is you're gonna drain through the citrus squeeze pretty quick.
Yeah.
So
4 ounces probably?
Yeah. It's a pretty significant amount. So it's 8 ounces per 2 gallons. So a couple other things that we have in here. So pretty much gone through most of this stuff. Citrus squeeze. If you got like major spots too on your gear after the fact, you can grab another bottle from somewhere else and hit this. Same thing back at the station. You can use this full strength concentration to hit some hot spots. And for the heavy saturation, that's what it recommends, is just let it soak and spray. And that should help the longevity of our turnouts as well. So after we do the decon, we're pretty much going to be stepping into using the wipes again and using gloves. Everything, get your wrists, get your face. Those are our most heavily exposed areas. Wrist, neck, face, around the mouth, especially before we're drinking water. And then when you're fully done at the end, final decon, throw some gloves on, get all your PPE off, and then we're gonna bag it. These are just our station bags, so you may need to end up double bagging it just because they're not too terribly thick. But we'll show that at the end too. You're gonna wanna go ahead, just get all your gear, throw it in a bag, keep it out of the cab. That's the biggest thing, is we're trying to knock all this stuff off. We're trying to keep the stuff out of the cab. Obviously the BAs, we can do what we can do, but we're trying to keep our PPE out of the cab. That's the way the whole industry is going. And that off-gassing, you guys smell it. You smell fire in there for a long time, and that's just inhalation of these terrible carcinogens over time, multiplied.
Are you gonna do anything about, because the firefighters' BA is terrible, we stick it in the cap.
That's my next thing.
All right.
So, last stage. So the bottom step that we have, equipment decon. So this bucket, what we're gonna do, get that out of there, squirt some soap in. I keep this in a bag just because one of them was leaking. So you don't get the lid on or whatever. We don't want this whole thing to get soaped out. So you already have your hose stretched out. The incident's winding down. Grab your hose. You already have your reducer. Comes with a normal head on here. Fill the bucket up with some soap and water. Then we got the scrub brush. Scrub those BAs down. Let's try and leave that stuff at the scene. We don't want to keep throwing that back in. I mean, we can only do what we can do, but let's do our best to keep that smell out. Our BAs are inside the cab, so it's going to be as good as we can really do. So. It talks about a go bag. So at minimum, some of the easiest things to do, keep an extra pair of pants or shorts, or you always have our single layer now, and then an extra shirt. Change out of that shirt, throw it on. If you can, change out of those pants, and just keep that stuff off you and shower within the hour. So those are some of the biggest points after the fact of decon and whatnot to try and reduce all of our exposure. Okay, so when we're setting up at the pump panel, basically what we're going to do, whether you're in pump at idle or you're on a hydrant, regardless, we're going to want to stay in that 30 to 50 psi range on the discharge. So go ahead and get your 2.5 inch to 3/4 inch garden hose reducer set up. Like I said, stay in that low range and go ahead and give yourself water and stretch this out. Standard setup, you can already have your mixed solution in here, or excuse me, your straight solution of pure citrus squeeze, and then you'll be on the off setting and you'll be able to flow water from there. So we'll stretch it out. So ideally what we're gonna have, got our operation set up over here. First thing we're gonna do, we're gonna be in the off setting, and that's gonna be our first initial rinse that we're gonna do. So any debris, particulates, we're just gonna work on getting that off. Just give a good thorough rinse. Arms out, yep. Try not to spray too much around the neck area, saturate the hood. If you have material on the helmet, bend forward. We can rinse that off. I'll leave it as is for now. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch over between the 8 and the 4 ounce setting. This is gonna be our citrus squeeze. So like I said, just washing a car, this is gonna be the soap. So now we're having an infused mix with the citrus squeeze. You'll smell it. And ideally, we're gonna wanna do this still on air. Scrub, scrub. at the top and work your way down. Knock off any debris on the helmet. Scrub those boots down. And ideally, I'm gonna be on air. He's gonna be on air. We're gonna be part of the same crew. We wanna minimize the engineers doing this without respiratory protection. So last, we're just gonna do the rinse. So then we'll have him step forward. So now he can take off his regulator. And then we're going to want to take the gloves off. Try and minimize contact. Get your helmet off after that. You're going to want to mix in some wipes as soon as you can. So we're going to take some wipes here, clean those hands up real good, move on to the hood, mask off. So wipes, face, neck, hands, wrist. It's going to be the most exposed areas. Next is going to be medical gloves. So at this point, he's going to be completely decontaminating, removing all his PPE, and then we're going to bag up the PPE. So go ahead and start working getting your BA off. So there's no like set way that we need to get everything off, but the main idea is use the wipes, use gloves when you can. We're obviously going to get contaminated to some extent, but we're just trying to minimize it. So there's no set like perfect way that you do it where you never get exposed to anything. So we'll bag up our coat. Hood's most likely going to get swapped with Battalion 2, as long as we have Battalion 2 there. So the other thing we can do also is going to be filling that bucket up for scrubbing down the BAs at scene. So obviously we still have the engine on. You can fill just with this if you need to, or you can put this on for scrubbing down. So, some Dawn soap, no real set amount. Fill up the bucket, use our scrubbers, scrub down the BAs. Rinse them off, get them back in the cab, and then we can really fully take care of them. Or if they're completely deconned at scene, then they're good to go. Let them dry out when we get back. But any questions with that, the process?